Right. Welcome, everyone, to track number 2. In this track, we are going to have 4 presentations, all connected to the theme of place-based educator development. And we have some wonderful presenters that I'm excited to share, for them to share their work with you. Our first presentation in this track will be Dr. Kinley and Dr. Reeta from Samtse College of Education, as well as Sir Ugyen Dorji from the Tendruk Central School. So I think with that, Dr. Kinley, I will turn it over to you to take it away. Please begin.
I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
So thank you. Very good morning from Samtse College of Education, Bhutan. I am very fortunate to be the first presenter for this track. The topic title here is Introducing Design Thinking Approach for Teaching and Learning in the Classrooms at Tendruk Central School in Samtse Zonghak. And while we have a team for this research project. And currently we are still working on the data. Our progress is organization of data for now. The team, in the team we have included myself, Ugyen Dorji, Principal, Tendruk Central School, Dr. Reeta from Samtse College of Education. We have Alexander, previously a colleague from faculty from Samtse College, and now back to TSS. We also have Sangay, Penjor and Sherab Chopel, who have been working together for this project. However, for today's session, it will be myself and Mr. Ugyen Dorji who will be taking you through the presentation. And also considering the audience, my presentation today will not be too academic. I have considered we have both academics as well as practitioners. So from that point of view, there will be a mix of our presentations, not purely academic research work. However, I just want to highlight on our research question. How can design thinking be implemented in the higher secondary school classrooms? We wanted to make an attempt with this. As you are all aware, place-based has already taken a big wave in the primary education in Bhutan with support from TSS. But our project is the initial step trying to work towards a higher secondary school classroom. And we have used these 5 steps of design thinking for our study. I will just take you through the inspiration for this work. The first inspiration is directly coming from the powerful Kashu that came to us on educational reform on 17th December 2020. And for Samtse College of Education, we had the opportunity initiated by our president to do an individual exercise, reflecting back on our own competence and then what we can do for this educational reform process, trying to give response to the education reform process. This was the first step of inspiration. The second one was the PBE in professional development that was organized by SE and the STEM Research Center at Samtse. And then the opportunity to make the first attempt of using design thinking in my classroom teaching and then making a poster presentation that was organized by TSS. That actually was quite inspiring. And then after that, I had the opportunity to have a conversation at the same time to explain my intent of what I wanted to do with regards to PBE, and then in particular with design thinking with our president. And there had been a very positive response and support from the college president. And then big support from my colleagues, Alexander, Reeta, Ugyen, Sangay, Penjor, and Sherab Chopal. And then this again was further reinforced, especially when we were taking into the classrooms the workshop from Teton, from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, where Samtse College of Education currently is having a project. This project gave us the opportunity to learn more about design thinking, at the same time also to experience some professional development on design thinking, and their examples on design thinking was very useful for taking the project forward. And then as a way forward, the purpose, I have outlined 3 purposes. Firstly, yes, this study, I thought it is the first form whereby we thought we will be able to outline the process of implementing design thinking in a Bhutanese higher secondary school for others who want to take it forward in future. Secondly, we wanted our secondary school teachers to design, modify, at the same time implement design thinking within their own teaching practice. And the third one, directly going to the response or aspirations of our king on how to develop creative and problem-solving skills in our students. We thought this is very much the essence of design thinking. So that was another purpose. I have just highlighted few. And just to highlight the methodology that we have taken for this project, I'm not going to present everything. We have purely done a qualitative approach using participatory design, and then it was a non-probability, at the same time purposive sampling. We had for the data collection, we have participant observation, we had semi-structured interview, focus group interview, narrative analysis, and we're going to be using thematic analysis. Narrative analysis because we have lesson plans, at the same time also classroom observation. Thematic analysis because we also have the interview and the focus group discussions. And then for the process, on 12th of August 2021, we made our maiden attempt of conducting a professional development on design thinking for 55 teachers, including the teachers of Tendruk Central School, over Zoom, because it happened during the lockdown, for a duration of 3 hours. And then the PD was facilitated by our experts at then Alexander, who was at Samtse College of Education, and it was supported by Dr. Reeta, who is the coordinator of STEM Research Center at Samtse College of Education. And we did not leave the PD there. We then took it forward. We had a follow-up of what was done in the PD. The PD was followed by sharing of lesson plans, sample lessons that we were able to avail through our professional development sessions, both with Alex at the same time with TIS Mumbai. And then very good relevant written materials for the teachers to further understand about design thinking. For the first batch, the school wanted to be very strategic, while all teachers were oriented on design thinking. The school wanted to do a thorough implementation of design thinking with the first batch of 12 teachers in the school. They wanted to go phase-wise. So we had, for the first batch, 12 teachers from the science department who were very committed in developing lesson plans. And still, because of the moment restrictions, me and the team from Samtse had continuous conversation with our field researchers, Mr. Ugyen and Sangay Penjor, who were the nodal points for this research in the field. At the same time, I also had many conversations with, I would like to announce here that we have, the teachers were so excited that we created a Telegram group where they have labeled it as the pioneers of design thinking. So there we had so many conversations that were going around whatever questions they had and whatever responses we were able to provide. So this was it. And then following the implementation of the lesson plans, the data, as I said earlier, gathered were lesson observation we had from 3 selected lessons. We had interview with teachers, 9 teachers, 7 male and 2 female. We have focus group interview. We had 6 students, 3 students from each classes ranging from class 10 to 12. And now, as I said earlier, because this is not a completed project, but however, it is ongoing. Of my field research partner, Mr. Ugyen Dorji, will now take us through the empirical data. I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Ugyen, to please come in.
Good morning to all the esteemed participants. With great delight, I joined Dr. Kinley in making our presentation with regard to the research that we are carrying out with regard to the implementation of design thinking as a teaching learning strategy in our school. And as Dr. Kinley has already shared with regard to the background, the purpose, the process, now I'll be sharing here briefly with regard to the tools that we have used in terms of collection of the data, and of several tools that we have used. One of the tools that we have used is the lesson observation, the classroom observation. So through this, what we could see is I would here like to just share the prominent observations amongst many observations that we could make. So one of the observations that I would like to share here is, as we have observed in the lesson, it was seen that the lesson unfolding, with the use of design thinking was a very unique one. And that too was very inspiring, unfolding with the 5 different stages: the empathizing, the definition, ideation, prototyping, and testing. And another thing that we could see was, as the lesson was started by the teacher, we could see the first phase itself talks about empathy. And there we could see that empathy, which is a vital human value, the critical human value, is being developed in our children at the outset of their lesson. And next, what we could see is in the observation, we could see the students were deeply engaged in the learning in all the stages in using the critical thinking. And here we can see a photo or the clip where all the students are deeply engaged during the prototyping phase. And similarly, we can see here one of the clips here. This has been labeled as super cool for your food. What it indicates is it's a product which the students have made during one of the lessons being taught by the chemistry teacher in grade 12. The topic was on thermodynamics, and they have developed a cooler in place of a refrigerator, and that could be used as an alternative food preservation equipment, which can become accessible to the people who cannot afford to buy refrigerator. And that is one of the kind of, we can see a kind of amazing creation. And now to talk about the interviews that we had with the teachers. Teachers have shared that the teaching learning through design thinking is highly student-centered, and it allows students to explore the world or the community problems deeply, and using design thinking can make students problem solvers in the society, and it also promotes critical thinking, the creativity in our children, and it is also really a scientific oriented learning. That's what our teachers have shared. And during the focus group discussion that we had with the students, they had some responses here. So firstly, what they said was, learning through design thinking promotes collaboration amongst the learners. And secondly, one of the students said that learning is highly engaging, is enriching and motivating when taught through design thinking. And another student responded saying that it really enhances the creativity and critical thinking skills while learning through design thinking. And one of the students also said that they can really find solutions to the problems that society, the community, the world faces when they learn through the design thinking. And now finally, to conclude, to share with regard to the preliminary conclusions that we have, or the findings, although it's not our final findings, we could see that the design thinking promotes deeper learning in our students. It promotes the collaboration. It also promotes the engagement. Students are deeply engaged in the critical thinking, the creativity. And overall, we could see that both teachers and students were so optimistic, and they said that they have shared on a positive note that design thinking is an appropriate strategy, it should be there for our learning. So that's what our teachers and students have shared, and this is what I would like to share. So with this, thank you, every one of you, for participating in our presentation. Thank you once more to all the esteemed participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Ugyen and Dr. Kinley. Thank you for sharing your research and your collaboration of the project that you worked on. I think we have time for one question, and I forgot to say that at the start, but after each presentation, we'll try to allow a little bit of time for questions. And so I think we have time for one now. If anyone has one they'd like to ask, you could add it to the chat or unmute to ask our colleagues.
Good morning, esteemed team here and the facilitators. Is it because of the already the presenter has mentioned, because of that? Is it because of the findings that makes the DT its gain its popularity?
So if I may take this opportunity to respond, at this point of time, we cannot say that it has gained the popularity. And as my other friend concluded, ours is just a preliminary finding for now, because we are still working on our data. We also cannot ascertain that it has already gained the popularity. We were just able to show that we were able to use it in the classrooms of a higher secondary school. And we, in our initial attempt, we have found some success. While often when we think of design thinking, because of the term itself, we are being daunted to take it forward. But then we were able to, in a way, exemplify how we can use this innovative pedagogy in the teaching learning process in a classroom. In the previous session, I have seen questions asked by individuals where we had an exam-oriented system, and in higher education, higher levels of school, whether it is applicable. Our research is trying to make an attempt to show that it is applicable, it can be used. And while when we think of design thinking as a bigger term, we were also able to contextualize and then show how, as a teacher in his or her regular teaching, can also take forward this principle of design thinking. With this, Leslie, if there is a minute or two, I will be quite, I think it will be quite appropriate if Alex would want to give a word or two for the project, because I think he was deeply involved at the initial journey of this project, and he will be in the future.
Alex, if you would like, please respond.
Thank you, Dr. Sif, for that invitation. Just to see this project through its fruition and its progress is inspiring. And what I believe is most impactful is the implementation of this project and design thinking at the higher grade level, higher class levels that many folks have discussed as being a real challenge. And to see this in action is truly a step forward. So thank you all for sharing so much, and looking forward to those next results and analyses. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And thank
Leslie,
you.
if I could just take few seconds, So the design thinking actually term sounds very sophisticated because it is a borrowed term from engineering process. But then all of us actually, with the onset of pandemic, all the teachers have actually used it, like when we switched on to online classes and online learning. Like the first step in design thinking is to empathize the students' problem. And then we realized that many students did not have smartphones, many students did not have access to TV and all when we switched on to online classes. And then there, as a teacher, we devised different plans to reach out to our students. So there we have already applied design thinking to solve our students' problem. So that way all of us have actually used it, and I'm sure that if you try using it, all of you will be very successful in solving a student's problem or anybody's problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reeta. And thank you so much, Dr. Kinley and Sir Ugyen. I know there are a few more questions in the chat, and I would encourage you, Dr. Kinley and Sir Ugyen, to respond to those questions in the chat and use that as a venue to continue the conversation. And I think now we will transition to our second presentation, which is really, I think, a very natural build from this first presentation. So next we will hear from Sir Sangay Penjor, who is a teacher at Tendruk Central School, and he'll share a little bit about his experience of facilitating design thinking with his students. So Sangay, I will begin sharing my screen, and you may take it away.
Thank you.
See, Sangay, I don't think we can hear you right now.
Hello.
Oh, now we can. There we go.
Okay. So shall I start now?
Yes, please do.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sangay Penjor, a teacher here at Tendruk Central School, Samtse, Bhutan. I'm also a team leader of this design thinking in the school. It is our privilege to work together with the College of Education, and first of this kind, in the words of Dr. Reeta, which rightly put, collaboration between a college and the school. It kind of makes sense because after graduating from the college, we hardly have a platform, for exchange of ideas, seek support, and basically any avenues to share our problem while translating that theoretical college knowledge into a real practice. I want to thank everybody for guiding us, supporting us, and giving us this wonderful platform to share our experiences. I want to give you guys a little bit of background so that you understand what is going on. Can I have the first slide, please? Yes. So we are a part of a bigger study that Dr. Kinley and his team work on introducing design thinking in the school. As you know, that Dr. Kinley just presented on the broader scope of this study. My presentation literally will be mainly on the implementation and the experiences sharing. A kind of like a nice connection to fully develop the understanding of design thinking and this process. So around June 2021, teachers of our school were oriented virtually through Zoom on this concept by the team of lecturers from Samtse, as just said by Dr. Kinley. So moreover, we received Mr. Sharp Shovel, a master's student from the college, to really test his pedagogy, partly to collect his data for his project, and more so to build on the training that we were given through Zoom. And it was then followed with a rigorous school level discussion. Here's the interesting part. Initially, we kind of thought of going whole school approach, but after carefully examining the resources, conveniences of our teachers, and the time availability, we just found that our scope was a bit ambitious, so we narrowed it down to a STEM subject. So science teachers from class 7 till 12 use this pedagogy in the field of biology, chemistry, physics, and environmental science. We had a numerous of team meetings before really implementing this concept, such as going through the phases of design thinking, critically analyzing, matching the relevance, and most importantly, distillation of the topic, because we want to make sure that it is relevant, not just for a student, but also as per the syllabus. So we then sat together or design our lesson plans. We also asked feedback from the team at Samtse, and then only after getting their feedback, we went to the classes and then taught the lesson. So overall, it took us around 3 months to not just prepare, but also to implement and basically to complete the whole process. So let's go with the first phase, which is, okay, so we have 5 phases in design thinking. So these are like empathy, define, ideation, prototype, and testing. I'll be just presenting you guys the activities that are embedded in these phases. So first, let's go with the empathizing phase. All right, empathy basically allows the student to put in the shoes of other, in this case, the users, really to find deep user needs and the insight, appreciate others, relate to them, and make emotional connection. The methods and the tools used are through empathy mapping, observation, user interviews, need finding, and through personal development. Students asked, what is the real problem that we can solve after learning the concept in a class? This is different from the old method of teaching where we directly teach the concept, don't really taken account of application. To elaborate more, here's a lesson plan taken from class 9 biology. The topic is on eutrophication. Kids were made to think, empathize the problem associated with the eutrophication, for example, on the health, on the environment, and on economy. The primary activities, as you can see from here, is the field visit to the nearby stream and user interview. The questions asked were, what is the real cause of this eutrophication? How does it impact to the health with a subsequent transfer of chemical to the trophic level? And then what are the problems associated, if not mitigated properly? So these are the fundamental questions they ask in this phase. So then after getting the broader picture of the problem, empathizing enough, then they go to the define phase. Once they gain a broad insight of the topic, they then switch gear towards defining the problem. Here, they identify the problem that they want to solve in the most beneficial way. This is done through clustering of the information or picking main problem from the activities in empathizing. However, the problem that they identify are broad, but not too obscure or not too limiting. Here is the sample of how they define the problem. They identify the source and its impact on the aquatic and terrestrial animal. They also found out the solution probably by using biofertilizers. But again, the definition of the problem is based on the user interviews and the empathy mapping that they just completed in the phase 1. So then after defining the problem, next is the ideation phase. Here, everybody in a group participated vigorously in producing the idea as much as possible, trying to solve the problem. There are no right or wrong answers to this. They are allowed to come up with all sorts of ideas, even if it is extreme wild guess, so long as it involves solving the problem. I have here the activities taken from 2 separate lessons. One is from the biology and another is from the chemistry. So it uses different ideation tools such as brainstorming and scamper methods. The key point, however, though, is generating ideas as much as possible and clustering them in a separate team so that it is much easier for them to identify the best solution and quickly pick it up so that they can prototype. This one is my best part in the design thinking because you will see in this particular phase, the class is going extremely loud, interaction, rebuttals, and then presenting ideas, counter argument, and so forth. So towards the end of this activity, as I said, they cluster the information based on the themes, picked one theme that the group agree upon, and then they finally prototype it. It takes us to the next phase, which is prototyping. But can I go back a little bit of that, my lesson plan? Yeah, there you go. So let's look at sample lesson plan. It is exactly how design thinking lesson plan looks on a whole. This one is my own lesson plan that I use while teaching the concept of carbon footprint in class 12 environmental science. I have noted down activities in each phase. In the interest of time, I will not be able to explain, but you're welcome to go through it. So, okay, so let's go to the prototype. Prototyping, this phase is pretty forward. Students develop prototype of their ideas. It is about making ideas into tangible forms, either through building models or through sketches or illustrations, drawings, or even storyboarding. So, but first they pick the best idea that the group agreed upon, and then also they can solve the problem effectively that they just identified in the defining phase. Here's a sample of a prototype that the students built. It is about energy efficient building. So it is always advisable to assemble materials beforehand if we wish them to develop something workable. So next is the testing phase. Here, students test their prototype. It can be done through presentation, storyboard, exhibitions, and something really to do with the sharing of their solution that they came up with, while others will ask questions and provide feedback. Here's the example of how one of our groups tested a prototype. This is from the application of nuclear energy taken out from our lessons in class 12 physics. Students came up with the drawing of nuclear car. The arguments were this car is different from others because it is highly energy efficient. They also posit that the working system of this car is different from the normal cars. So, excuse me, to their ideas, others ask questions about the risks of radiation, reactions, and health hazards. Something sort of presenting their thesis and defending them. Okay, so I think I'm towards the end of my presentation. So now that I've finished, I can't see the screen.
Sangay, were you done? Did you want me to stop screen sharing?
It's okay. I'm done, but I have this little last slide left, but it's okay.
Are you sure? Would you like me to share it?
Yeah, that's good. If you can.
Okay, I will share it.
Okay, so I'm gonna share you guys what our students has to say about this pedagogy after going through all this process. They just found it interesting, and then most importantly, they said that this method has given them an opportunity to think out of box. But not everything is green though. So there are some challenges, mostly logistical, such as resources, time management, because it drags to even second grade. So I want to also note that not all topics can be taught using this strategy, just like other pedagogies that does not have universal application. So with this, thank you so much, and I'm ready to take questions if you have. Otherwise, back to you, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Sangay. Thank you for sharing in your presentation. There was one question that came in the chat. Sangay, if you would be willing to answer this one. Sonam Zangmo asked, how did the teachers measure students' empathy? Which measure was effective to measure the students' empathy?
Well, I think in the empathy process, there are like numerous of activities that students can carry out. Only the thing is we should have the ample of time so that students get this opportunity to really go into deep users' need and then make a connection about their topic and how they can solve problem. For example, in the cluster biology, students were taught about the skeletal system and then osteoporosis. But in Tendruk, we have the same school. So students immediately just got that, feeling that, after learning this concept, how about developing some artificial, support system so that students who cannot actually walk can be supported. In this kind, they have this, really feeling of a connection. And if you allow students to do activities in the empathy process, particularly user interviews and visiting the field trip, I think students can get pretty much about their feelings about the problem in the users.
Thank you very much, Sangay. There was one other question that I think we should make time for. It came up several times in the previous presentation and this one, and it was asking, is design thinking applicable in primary grades and in other subjects besides science? And Sangay, I wonder, I know you are a secondary science teacher, and I wonder if you could speak to how you think design thinking might be used in primary classes or in other disciplines.
Personally, I feel absolutely we can use it. It is like an interdisciplinary approach, not really restricted to the higher classes, but even in a small class, like lower classes also, the concept, the science stand and the curriculum is built in such a way that, it builds upon in the higher classes. So in that sense, we have also topics, in the lower classes that we can just pick it up and then immediately use those design thinking phases. Prototyping, basically, if you read about prototype in through the internets or from other sources, you'll pretty much get about, it's not just about developing or it's talking about even making a drawing, basically about ideas and then sharing to the groups and then some, the discussions. So a mini research, I would put in this way. So I think it is applicable for. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sir Sangay. And everyone, please join me in thanking Sir Sangay for his presentation. Sangay, it was wonderful to get to hear from you. Kadinchela. And I think that brings us to our third presentation in this track. I am very excited to welcome Dr. Nandu Giri, Dr. Kinzang Dorji, and Alex Sivitskis. Dr. Kinzang and Dr. Nandu are with Samtse College of Education, and Alex Sivitskis was with Samtse College, and now he's back at Teton Science Schools, and we're pretty excited to have him back with us now. So Dr. Kinzang, Dr. Nandu, and Alex, I will turn it over to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leslie. Dr. Kinzang, Dr. Nandu, I hope it's okay if I can share my screen. I can bring up this PowerPoint. And just to check that everyone can see this.
Yes, thank you. We can see.
Las Kuzuzangpola, for those who I don't know, Chetsebe Semgaila, I apologize for my rusty Zanka, but it's very great to see you all and to have this opportunity to share. I'm giving this opportunity to present on our collaborative research project focusing on an investigation of the implementation of place-based education and its relationship with educating for GNH at Samtse College of Education. With my co-researchers, Dr. Nandu Giri, Dr. Kinzang Dorji, and myself. This is a project that has been ongoing and has been near to many of our hearts. And I know a lot of folks here are interested in this relationship and we hope with this short presentation to maybe provide a bit more depth and clarity about what this relationship may entail. So to start with just some background and detail for everyone, this idea of the Educating for Gross National Happiness initiative was focusing on proving the teaching and learning through development of inclusive environments that promotes the principles and values of GNH. And this was a concept that has been around in Bhutan for some time, but was really brought to the official light around 2009 by the Ministry of Education. And consistently, while this was philosophically and theoretically positive, educators throughout the country have expressed struggle with realizing the actualization of this idea for education for GNH. These ideas were particularly found at the tertiary or higher level in education as well. In a 2017 study by Gamso et al. Investigating the educators at the nation's teacher colleges, they particularly found that GNH values and principles weren't explicitly taught as part of lessons. And one takeaway these folks had was that lecturers may lack the required knowledge, skills, and strategies to explicitly infuse GNH values and principles. This was further investigated by a few colleagues at Samtse College who actually noted that there is certainly a high awareness of gross national happiness concept among faculty. However, they found a limited presence of these concepts in teaching and co-curricular activities. And this study yielded the recommendation that some far-reaching curriculum development might be needed to make implementation of GNH more robust. So given this background, many educators within Bhutan have shared that in order for education for GNH to be successful, the educational community must really identify innovative strategies that can support the infusion of GNH principles and values. And it sounds like everyone here today is in agreement that we can posit place-based education, maybe one strategy towards these ends. Building on that light, we can look towards that background of place-based that we're all becoming more familiar with, seeing that it's a multifaceted approach, connecting learning to communities, increasing engagement, whether that's in academics or social emotional learning, and potentially community impact. And consistently throughout the conversations between folks in Teton Science schools and the educators in Bhutan, we are always finding these potential alignments between investigating a place through this idea of three elements of ecology, economy, and culture, and the overarching pillars of gross national happiness. So this conversation has been ongoing and has been naturally occurring as place-based has been expanding in Bhutan. But we were a little bit interested to see what particular evidence could we find of this overlap if we were to investigate place-based in action. And on that, we had this general concept that we wanted to investigate regarding how place-based education can support educating for GNH, but how might educating for GNH support the implementation of place-based education? So going from these general ideas, this research project has certainly evolved over some time, but it's kind of come down to a real simple research question of how might this place-based pedagogy support in educating for GNH? And so we're going to briefly take you through our methods and our data collection process, but the main questions and information we'd like to present to y'all today are ideas of what are the Samtse College of Education student and lecturer perceptions regarding this idea of place-based pedagogy and GNH, and explicitly, how are values and principles of GNH incorporated and present into lessons that are include PBE from lecturers. So to briefly share, our study employed a convergent parallel mixed methods design, which has really focused more on qualitative data than quantitative data. It included a questionnaire that was sent out to many students as well as faculty, as well as some in-depth qualitative data collection, which included classroom observations, additional questionnaires and interviews with both students and faculty who implemented place-based education. And collectively, we worked to integrate all of these different sources of data to come to a final interpretation and attempts to address some of those methods. So to share a bit about the findings and what we see emerging, we'll look first towards that perceived relationship between place-based education and GNH, and then back that up with a bit of observed evidence in regards to place-based implementation. And these pictures here are meant to show and demonstrate how this analysis has gone sometimes to a micro scale, trying to understand fine details, while also looking at a broader scale on overall principal approaches. So in regards to student perceptions of GNH, we found some very interesting things coming from our data. Overall, we were able to uncover that the Samtse College of Education students have a sound fundamental understanding of what place-based education is. However, while the general understanding of what place-based is present, there seems to be a lack of a more comprehensive understanding, particularly of higher order place-based applications. So we see this very frequently when we were asking students to describe some examples of place-based education. And overarchingly, those examples seemed to resonate on field visits to particular areas. Here are a few quotes that came from some of our surveys and our interviews, but one student recounted, as an example of place-based, I remember our teacher taking us on a hike and taking samples of mushrooms, shamu, to learn its name both locally and scientifically. Additionally, we had students who were saying when teachers would take us to dzongs and teach us how they are built and the history behind their architecture. Now, these are absolutely examples of place-based education. However, they don't incorporate necessarily all facets of what place-based education can be. We saw in particular just these prior examples of design thinking in the last two presentations, and descriptions of those sorts of place-based activities were really lacking in our current students' understanding. Lecturer perceptions of place-based, on the other hand, seem to be more in-depth and expansive. Through interviews and questionnaire data, lecturers at Samtse College of Education were able to share a wide array of different types of place-based applications, including inquiry-based community investigations, short-term and long-term projects that might be associated more with problem-based learning. And design thinking was further mentioned in relation to inquiry. However, it was described without explicit detail. To note, a lot of this data was collected in the spring of 2021, prior to a lot of the design thinking work that has been shared with our colleagues before. In regards to the survey, trying to understand what folks thought of as the relationship between place-based education and GNH, we had to try to get some quantitative data, a simple 12-item survey asking folks to relate their perceived relationship, how place-based might support educators, first to integrate GNH principles and domains within teaching, and then how place-based might enable students to engage and practice GNH values. And consistently across faculty as well as Samtse students, we found an overall agreement that place-based can support in both of these efforts. In particular, some quotes that have come out is this idea that place-based really serves as a foundation towards educating for GNH. One lecturer commented how many components of GNH can easily be achieved through the principles of PBE. Again, really aligning with that idea that culture is connected to preservation of culture. The economy side of a place triangle may be connected to the socioeconomic development, and ecology will take care of conservation of the environment. These results, they seem to confirm what everyone has been saying all along. But importantly, what our research has started to uncover are some of those deeper connections that go beyond these overarching pillars and broad terms. So in particular, we had a strong showing within our data of how relationships between place-based education within a teaching context can really allow students and teachers to engage with GNH values. These values span a wide range of the associated domains. Some examples that came out from our surveys was this idea of appreciation. Through place-based, students can build this value and appreciation of a certain village or place in which the school is situated. This idea of environmental conservation, which is more correlated to GNH values of how to care for our health and have conservation of beautiful environment. Again, direct quotes pulled from our survey data. One of the things that also was prevalent is this focus on the idea of harmonious coexistence, which seems to be held between different Bhutanese values and balancing the human versus non-human aspects of life through harmonious living. And additional values that were consistently mentioned were ideas of innovation, mindfulness, responsibility, and understanding of self. So these were all the perceived relationships in regards to values that really emerged from our surveys. And it pointed towards a strong relationship. In order to examine this relationship further, we wanted to specifically look at place-based education in action. So over the course of that spring semester in 2021, our team had the chance to observe 4 different examples of place-based education happening at Samtse College. We're going to share only 2 with you now for the sake of time, but these projects and classroom observations, we think really can exemplify that findings between place-based education and GNH. So the first that we will look at is a place-based history experience for social science education, where a group of 4th year bachelor students were tasked with documenting local topics through the use of oral histories. So in coordination interview with the lecturer who brought about this module, there was a direct and applied place-based approach. This lecturer chose to employ a community as classroom model while using a structured inquiry-based learning approach and allowing for a learner-centered theme where students could choose their own products. So building from this place-based approach, the lecturer was able to specifically target and recognize that their lesson was aligned with the GNH principle, pillar of preservation and promotion of culture. Furthermore, the lecturers and the students recognized through their work, they were engaging with the few different domains, including cultural domains and domains of community vitality. And from these particular domains and activities associated with them, we found evidence in both student voice and work in practicing values such as non-alienation, learning from different ethnic groups, and being able to look towards building community vitality through creating a unity within a community through sharing stories and sociability. So it was impressive to hear the lecturers and the students recognize these connections to GNH. But what was really wonderful about our observations was that through our investigation into the classroom culture, we were able to find examples of both emergent, place-based, and GNH connections that were not planned. These were spontaneous that happened through discussion. So for example, during a final synthesis of this activity, there was an emergent PBE discussion that happened around local to global issues. And during this time, students began to engage in different pillars, including sustainable socioeconomic development and ideas of good governance. These led to different emergent domains, including ideas of education and furthermore, the application of good governance, which allowed students to practice values of creativity and openness through discussion, as well as building empowerment and commitment to sharing and preserving stories and letting other voices be heard. So again, the place-based and GNH targets on top were the ones that were explicitly targeted by our lecturers and our students. But through the implementation of this lesson, new place-based and GNH concepts emerged, really demonstrating what we view as a powerful relationship. So this extended not only in the realm of social science, but also to applied sciences. We watched and observed an investigation of a stream ecology project, looking at the connection between place-based education and ecology. Place-based approaches that were used here included many of the same ideas, but this one absolutely included an interdisciplinary approach where mathematics, biology, chemistry students all came together and physics students to conduct this shared investigation. We noticed that pillars were being supported, including environmental presentation, good governance, and domains emerged from these pillars very much the same as the first classroom observation. And through conversations, interviews with students and lecturers, we were able to uncover evidence of values, students practicing an eco-consciousness and a bend towards sustainability, as well as building in dialogue and far-sightedness, beginning to talk about concepts like climate change. And I believe somebody had brought up in a comment, pollution to Bhutan's waterways. Yet again, even within this framework, we found that student discussions led to more emergence of place-based education through local to global discussions, which led emergence to engaging with even more GNH pillars, like sustainable socioeconomic development, domains, with this, again, idea of education and community vitality, allowing for students to practice even more values of creativity and openness, and building in equality, particularly in an applied research context. So what this comes down to and what we've tried to synthesize is that does seem to be evidence that both place-based education and GNH can in fact be mutually supportive. PBE is supporting for education for GNH because we observed an alignment between this implementation and actualization of these different components. And we found that PBE learning often leads to emergent and unplanned engagement with GNH topics. Furthermore, this has demonstrated that GNH can provide this framework for effective place-based implementation. Lecturers and students consistently identified the pillars and domains which allowed them to identify local challenges, issues, and opportunities. And these domains and values were able to outline some goals for sustainability that were ultimately able to guide place-based investigations where they might not have had direction before. As we're looking forward, what does this all mean potentially for educators, both in Bhutan, worldwide? It seems what we have found is that if educators strive to use at least one or two place-based or GNH targets within their lesson plans, that might lead to further connections and relationships that are even unplanned. And so the power and potential in this convergence is very strong. And also in trying to apply PBE to other contexts, we'd advocate for identifying culturally relevant philosophies and values that could help guide place-based. And as folks have shared before, there does seem to be an increasingly tangible relationship between place-based education and the emerging baccalaureate program. And so we'd highly encourage new research into those realms. I think that would be the final slide that I have. So I can stop sharing now and pass back to open for questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. Attendees, please join me in thanking Alex, as well as Dr. Kinzang and Dr. Nandu for sharing their presentation and work. Kadenchela, thank you very much. I want to give time for just one question for this group. I didn't see any come in from the chat, but yeah, if anyone has a question that you'd like to ask.
I think Dr. Reeta has raised the hand. Okay.
Using emoji.
Sorry.
Problem. Well, I think we may keep moving since we're a little behind on time, but thank you again, Alex and Dr. Kinzang and Dr. Nandu. Thank you so much for your presentation and your work. I'll mention to everyone now that we will share a recording of the full symposium, including both these breakout tracks in the next week or so. So know that that'll be coming. And I also just want to plant the seed that when shortly after we head back into the main room, you'll have the chance to vote on presentations as well. So as you have been thinking about what you've been watching and seeing and learning, yeah, make sure to think about what you might like to vote for as well. And I think with that, I would like to introduce our final presenter of this track, Sir Mani Raj Thapa. From the Serang Central School will share some of his dissertation research from his time at Samtse College. So Sir Mani Raj, please take it away from here. See, sir, we can see your slides, but we can't hear you yet.
Okay, good Zambo, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hello, everyone. I would like to welcome to my presentations on the topic Community as a Classroom for Learning Geography in Middle Secondary School. And this is my dissertations in my master's degree in Samtse College of Education. Well, community as a classroom is one of the principles of place-based education, which is used by educators in their teaching learning processes by connecting to the local community. And integrations of this strategy in teaching learning process will create engaging and experiential learning experiences to the learner. And even in Bhutan also, the place-based education is officially integrated across the primary curriculum. However, there are many literatures including the implementation status report of RSA, suggests that the place-based education is relevant to the Bhutanese curriculum. Several orientations and professional development program on PBE were conducted to pre-service teachers, especially those who are in primary school. Similarly, Samtse College of Education also introduced the play space in their program with the expected aim to boost the learning outcomes of the trainees and also to familiarize these approaches to the trainees so that it will be implemented later when they graduate from the institute. Moreover, the geography curriculum also encouraged the use of community as classroom strategies. However, today, many Bhutanese teachers use and prefer teacher-centered method to teach by letting the student to sit and listen for whole day inside the classroom. And moreover, the PBE is officially integrated to the primary curriculum. And because of that, majority of the secondary teachers are not aware of these concepts and its implementations. Well, David Harvey defined geography is a subject concerning descriptions and explanations of the art and its features, and learning of this subject inside the classroom cannot create or assist the deeper, personalized and real-world learning to the students. Therefore, by realizing the current trend of the world and the demand of the 21st century, learning and learner of 21st century learning styles, I have conducted this study in order to break the chain and shift from traditional method of teaching learning towards very student centers and community-based learning style, so that it will bring very actual learning and also develop the social and academic standards, learning standard of the students. The aims of this study is to explore the student perceptions on the use of community as a classroom, as an instructional strategy in learning geography in middle secondary school. The primary questions for this study is, what are the student perceptions on the use of community as a classroom as an instructional strategy in learning of geography in middle secondary school? And this question is supported by 3 sub-questions. For this study, I have chosen Chirang Dzongkhak. There are 4 secondary schools and all have participated. And these are the area where I covered in literature review. So the place-based or community-based learning may be rather new to the many educators, but philosophical underpinning of it, such as experiential learning and learning by connecting the local environment, exists since centuries. And even in Bhutan also, since the start of educations, learning by connecting the local community was already there. However, the place-based educations were formally introduced in Bhutan in 2008 in collaboration with Teton Science School. And since then, the implementation of PBE was implemented across the primary curriculums. Although officially this approach is not integrated in secondary curriculums, but if you look into the geography texts of secondary schools, we can see some of the topics and the activities designed in such a way that it can encourage the use of this strategy. But currently, if you look into the current setting of the schools, we can find that these practices or strategies are rarely practiced by the teachers. So for this study, the integrations of CSE strategy in learning geography in middle secondary is basically guided by 3 promising questions, that is how, what, and why. So for methodology, under the guidance of pragmatism paradigms, I use the conversion mix method designs. And then for both qualitative and quantitative method, I selected the participant by using purposive sampling techniques. And for data analysis, inferential and descriptive statistics were used in quantitative, and for qualitative, I used the Clark and Brown thematic analysis method. Now, let me take you through the findings. Under the theme 1, the student perceptions and the use of community as a classroom in learning geography, here the overall mean on the 6-point Likert scale is 5.02. Now, this reveals that the community as a classroom is strongly favored by the participant because they feel that it is very effective and exciting approach where learning can happen anywhere rather than in fixed place. So generally they have strongly agreed that community as a classroom can be used in learning geography. Now, similarly, I also try to see the perceptions of the students on the use of community as a classroom strategy in learning geography and the learning outcome of the students. So here, the result of Pearson correlation is statistically significant, meaning there is a positive correlations. So students, this has revealed that the student perceives that use of community as a classroom in learning geography will be enhanced in learning outcomes. And this finding is supported by the poll, where it is reported that the use of community-based education pedagogy will not only enhance the school-community relationship, but also improve the academic achievement of the learners. Under theme 2, the practice of CAC strategy, here the overall mean of this theme is 1.97. This indicates that currently in secondary schools, especially in teaching geography, the community as a classroom is rarely practiced by the teachers. Rather, most of the time, teachers always go for the old intensive lecture method. And this is also supported by the report of Queenie, where it is reported that most of the time, teacher uses this teacher-centered method, where students have to go rote learning and note-taking style of learning. So this study also confirmed that local community has rich resources that can be used for educational purposes. However, the same study confirmed that those resources are not much used by educators and learners for learning purposes. Rather, they always go for textbook for learning purposes. And this finding is being supported by the Brinkman, where he reported that Bhutan has sufficient teaching learning materials, but teacher must be dynamic to explore and make use of those resources. So this indicates that there are so many resources that can be relevant for learning purposes, but still not being practiced by the educators. So for final theme that I would like to present, that relevancy of CAC strategy into geography curriculums. Most of the participants view that geography is an interdisciplinary subject, which is mostly linked with the earth and its phenomena. Therefore, they agreed that community-based learning approach is relevant to the Bhutanese geography curriculum, because they felt and believed that learning outside will give them an experiential learning and enhance towards actual learning experiences. So in general, I would like to say that community as a classroom is an exciting and effective learning approaches where educators try to connect their learning with the community, because most of the participants believe that local community has a stringent value, rich local resources and educational asset that can be used for learning purposes. Therefore, most of the participants wish their teachers to use this strategy in learning geography so as to uplift the social and academic standards. So there are several limitations. Based on those limitations, recommendations are given here. And among all, with the interest of time, I'd just like to highlight an important one. As earlier, I have presented the finding that the local community has rich education resources, which can be used for learning purposes. Therefore, I'd like to recommend that inclusions of local community in learning should be considered seriously, because learning can be happened by connecting with the local community, where it will give the experiential learning, engage the learner, and also give the deeper and personalized learning experiences. So this is all about my presentation. So I'd like to welcome all of you for the questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Sir Maniraj. Group, please join me in a big Kadinchela to Sir Maniraj. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think in just another moment or so, we will head back to the main room for the final presentation. But I'd, in the spirit of a little bit of celebration and gratitude for all of our presenters, I'd invite everyone to unmute, and we'll just give a little bit of gratitude and a few claps to the whole group. So, all right, it looks like folks are getting unmuted. Perfect. All right, we'll give claps and some shouts in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kinzang.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you all so much. Well, I think we are going to head back into the main room now for our final individual presentation and the wrap up of the symposium. Big thanks again to all of our presenters in track 2, and thanks for all of the engaged attendees in this session as well. I'll see you back in the main room. Great. I think both groups are just returning from the 2 tracks, and we will get started in just another moment or so with the final individual presentation.
Welcome back to the main room, everyone. I want to show my gratitude for all of the presenters. There is so much amazing energy and information, suggestions and support, and I am inspired by what this community is accomplishing. So thank you so much. And the way to finish this off is to hear from the students. This is a perfect way for all of this collective work to be on full display. And so with that, I am very pleased to have us all be here to meet students from the Olathong Primary School in Parnell, Sonam C. Yangchen, Jingmi, Rangjung Rangdel, and Tenzing Wangmo. And with that, I will let the students go ahead and take it away. Thank you very much.
We would like to welcome everyone here. We have studied about people and environment through place-based education. The overall theme of this project and presentation is promoting authentic partnerships and promoting authentic learning through a place-based education project. Bhutan is well known to the world as a GNH country, gross national happiness. Blessed by the extraordinary leadership of our kings, Bhutan is also known as the land of Thunder Dragon. So from the land of Thunder Dragon, I'm Sonam Siangchen, studying in 6th grade at Olathong Primary School under Paradongkak. With me today, I have my friend Jimmy Rangjung Rangde and Tenznomo to present about place-based education through the study of interdisciplinary carried out in the year 2021. Now let me share the outline about our presentation. There are 9 parts. Number 1, our objectives, why we chose this project. Number 2, what we know about place-based education. Number 3, what we observed. Number 4, questions we had after our observation. Number 5, our hypothesis based on our observation. Number 6, our findings from the data we collected. Number 7, our recommendation. Number 8, conclusion. And number 9, our pledge. The overall objectives of this project is using interdisciplinary approach through place-based education to make our learning more authentic. What we know about place-based education. According to our understanding, place-based education is a study about people, community, and environment using all our senses. We have used Science Circle as a place-based education strategy to study about people and environment through interdisciplinary approach. Now, to know more about our presentation, I will hand over my presentation to my friend Jimmy Rangjung.
So there are 8 steps in the science circle. The first step in the science circle is observe. The second step is questions. The third step is hypothesis. The fourth step is design. The fifth step is data collection. The sixth step is analyze data. The seventh step is conclude. And the last step of the science circle is share. This is our observation at the Pamisa landfill. We saw animals feeding on waste. We observed mixtures of waste. We also felt like vomiting. The air was filled with rotten smell. Flies were buzzing all over the place. Reusable and recyclable waste were present. Waste were not properly segregated. We could hear the crows crowing, dogs barking. These are the questions we had after the observations. Why were the animals feeding on the waste? Why were waste not segregated? Who is responsible for waste management? How are environment affected by waste? How long will it take to fill the landfill? Will the smell have a negative impact on our health? What can we do with our waste? Why was Pambisa chosen as landfill? How many trucks of waste are dumped there daily or weekly? Do the dogs pose threat to people passing by? Is it healthy for the animals to feed on waste? This is our hypothesis to the questions we had. The animals have no owners. People didn't know how to segregate waste. Everyone is responsible for waste management. Waste are polluting the environment. It would take around 50 years to fill the landfill. Foul smell will have a negative impact on our health. Dogs are a real threat to people. After Pambisa, we visited the district environment officer to collect data and confirm our hypothesis. The district environment officer shared us that waste in the landfill gives us methane gas and leachate into the soil. Methane gas is a type of gas that comes from the waste and it pollutes the air. And leachate is a black type of liquid that also comes from the waste and it harms the environment. A new disposal site is coming up in Shaba Paro with all the facilities required. There are laws that penalize those people who throw waste everywhere. Paro produces approximately 6.5 to 7 tons of waste in a day. People are educated through geog level zomdus. Waste affects the aesthetic beauty of land, aquatic life, and pollutes the air. Paro has only one landfill, that is in Pambisa, and it is an open dump site. We can conserve environment through afforestation, reforestation, and cleaning campaign. The last place we visited was the Tendruk waste management. Here we collected data and confirmed our hypothesis. The Tendruk waste proprietor shared us that Tendruk waste was started 11 years ago, which was in 2011. The Tendruk waste proprietor uses baler machine to reduce the volume of the waste. Before COVID-19, they have 21 staff, but now they only have 7 staffs, including the manager. In 2011, Tendruk waste management was started because they thought they could solve a problem. We saw people segregating waste. The owner of the Tendruk waste provides gloves and boots to his workers as a safety measure. The current site has an area about 50 to 60 decimals. Anything that can be recycled can be stored. Approximately 8 to 9 trucks of waste are dumped every day in Pambisa. Getting workers and retaining is the most challenging. The profit made by Tendruk waste is approximately 80,000 to 90,000 per month, and it was before COVID. Here we can see the built aluminum wrappers, the segregated aluminum cans, and the PET bottles. Now I'm going to hand over the presentation to Tenzwangmo.
So now after visiting Pamsa Landfill District Environment Officer and Tendruk waste, we went back to school and we did data analysis, and here are some of our findings. The first one is approximate amount of waste collected in a week. On Tuesday and on Wednesday, Tendruk waste collected about 7,200 kg. In a week, they collected about 14,400 kg in total. Second finding was the approximate amount of money generated each day was 2,500. The approximate amount of money generated in a week was 17,500. Third finding was type of waste. So you can see here there is 50% of plastic, 5% of vegetable, 15% of carton, 5% of fruits, 15% of wood, and 10% of clothes. So in this chart, plastics cover the most. Through our PBE project, we came to the conclusion that more awareness of waste education to the general public is required. People are contributing to the environmental pollution. Waste segregation can begin at the individual house. Everyone is responsible for creating waste. Waste can be recycled. There are different types of waste. Need to empathize with the waste handlers and animals feeding on the waste. I saw cows were eating the plastics. I thought, how will that cow digest that plastic? Will that cow survive? I was sad seeing this until I realized it is because of people's behavior. If people took care of their own waste and segregate the waste properly, animals wouldn't suffer that much. Not only animals, waste is also affecting the environment as well. Waste left in open space can cause health issues in the long run. We also came to know that we can earn money out of waste. So this is the last step of the science circle, which is share. We presented and exhibited the project to all the teachers of Olathang Primary School. Guest presents were the CEO of Green Road and Mr. Tendruk Chukpa Royal Education Council. Through place-based education, we knew that there is benefit of learning through PBE. Learn through interdisciplinary approach. We did letter writing and Zonka presentation in English, data analysis in math, learn about environment and waste in science, people and communities in social studies, and making PowerPoint in information technology. Using all our 5 senses while going out in the community, make partnership, meet with new people, and learn about new things. Understanding about place-based education concept and make learning more meaningful than classroom teaching. Now, lastly, let us all pledge. Let's use less plastic. Let's not litter. Let's segregate the waste properly. Let's buy less packets of foods. Let's purchase wisely. Let's carry bags while going for shopping. Let's reduce, reuse, and recycle. Advocate the people nearby about waste management. So you can see here, Earth is crying because of people's behavior. So let's save our Earth. We can do it. Kadin Chela.
Thank you, students. I'm wondering if folks would unmute and give them a round of applause with me.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to commend all of you for your bravery in presenting to so many people on Zoom. You were very well spoken. That was an excellent presentation. And if anyone had any doubts about the power of place-based education, I think your presentation would put those to rest. At this point in the evening, please show your appreciation in the chat for the students. We're going to get ready to turn the meeting over to Leslie and Dr. Reeta, who will take us into the final stretch. So thank you again, students. We appreciate you being part of this evening. It was very important to hear your voices.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much. I echo Shannon's gratitude, and what a way to close our evening is hearing directly from the students. Dr. Reeta, I think next, if it's okay by you, I'll announce how voting will work for the awards. Is that all right?
Please go ahead with the voting.
Okay, perfect. So in just a moment, Chris will open a poll, and the poll will give you 4 different awards to vote for, 2 for best poster and 2 for best individual presentation. And so let's see. So Chris, actually, I think you could go ahead and open it, and folks should have access to it. It should just pop right up on your screen, and then you'll be able to vote for the presentations, both poster and individual. All right, hopefully it is popped up for you now. And so, so take a moment to vote based on the presentations. We'll give you a couple minutes for it, and I'll just give a little bit of quiet, but it should be up on your screen to vote now. All right, we're starting to see a few votes come in, so I'll let those keep tracking for a few moments, so you all get a chance to vote. All right, on our end, we can see just about 60 of the 140 folks who are here have voted so far. So we'll give maybe just another minute or so for voting. And I'll make a few announcements as folks are voting. And that's to say, one thing is that we have recorded the entire symposium, and we'll make the recording available to you probably in the next week or so. We'll send out the link so that you have access to it and can share with colleagues as well. I think that's the big announcement for now. We'll share that recording with all of you. And the poster session will stay up and active. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, you'll be able to look at it into the future. And we'll probably share a few more resources through the Mighty Network page with all of you as well. All right, we're just about half of the folks who are here who have voted. So yeah, I'll give maybe 30 seconds to another minute or so. Finish up your voting if you haven't already. I'll let you finish now. Oh, yes, Hunter, we will definitely share the Mentimeter word cloud also. We'll make sure that's available to folks.
Just one request to Chris. Chris, looks like our president sir got locked out. So I would like to request you to let him in.
Dr. Reeta, there's no waiting room right now. So if he has the link, he should be able to join. I'll send it to him again.
Yeah, I'll also send.
Right, final chance to vote. This is for real this time, 30 more seconds to close us out. All right, I'm going to end the voting now. And I'm so excited to get to announce our award winners for the symposium. So first up, for the best poster presentation, in the themes of finding hope and understanding and promoting authentic partnerships. Sir Sewang Nedup's presentation, Place-Based Education Through an Interdisciplinary Approach, won for the best poster. I'll just show it briefly on our screen in case you haven't had a chance to see it yet. Sir Sewang, big congratulations to you on your poster and your award. All right, next up, the award for best poster in the place-based educator development track is Madam Sushma Daha with her poster Classrooms Without Walls, using the local community in place. And I will flash that that poster up on the screen now, just so you get a little prompt to go check it out as well. Congratulations, Madam Sushma, on your poster. All right, next up, the best presentation for the place-based educator development track. The presentation, Implementing Design Thinking in Bhutanese Higher Secondary School Classrooms with Dr. Kinley, Dr. Reeta Rai, and Sir Ugyen Dorji. Congratulations to the team who is studying the impact of design thinking in higher secondary schools. Cheers. All right, and finally, the best presentation from the Finding Hope and Understanding and Promoting Authentic Partnerships theme. I think this presentation wowed us all, and we were so thrilled to get to celebrate the three school students who are here with us tonight, Sonamchi Yangchen, Jigme Rangjun Rangdel, and Tenzin Wangmo, on their presentation, People and Environment, a Place-Based Education Project. Congratulations, and cheers to all of the award winners. Thank you all so much for your work, for your efforts, and for sharing some inspiration about place-based education with us all. It's really an honor to get to be here with you and to get to celebrate your work and your presentations. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Reeta to close us out. Dr. Reeta.
Thank you, Leslie, for announcing the winners. And then I would also like to congratulate all the winners of both the poster and then the oral presentation session. So the winners of the best poster and oral presentation will also receive awards and certificates in the near future. Likewise, all the paper and poster presenter will also receive certificate of appreciation for their efforts. We'll also send token of appreciations to our keynote speakers, Hunter, Nathan, and Heather Bender for your interesting and insightful panel sessions. And then all of these mentioned awards and tokens have been sponsored by Samtse College of Education, and then we would like to pay special thanks to our president, sir, for his generous support and help in sponsoring all these awards, and then all these will be dispatched soon. That brings us to the end of our symposium. So on behalf of the organizing committee, Samtse College of Education, Teton Science School, Youth Development Fund, I would like to thank all our distinguished panelists, poster and paper presenters, as well as our esteemed audience for helping to make this symposium a huge success. We came across some interesting questions in the chat boxes of both the sessions. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we were unable to address all of them. So for our friends in America, so it is past midnight and they must be having difficult time to keep their eyes open. Let us continue our discussion on place-based education even after this symposium. So this was the first symposium actually primarily organized for our Bhutanese teacher educators and teachers to share their practices in place-based education. So, and then the most memorable moment of this symposium would be our smart school children sharing platforms with their teachers. So we will remember Sonamsi Yangchen, Jigmi Rangzung, and Tenzin Wangmo and their mentor, Mr. Chong Nidub, as firm advocates of place-based education. We hope to create such platforms on a regular basis where we can come together like this to discuss our professional practices. As mentioned by Leslie, so by the end of next week, we will be also sending the recorded session to our all attendees. Thank you very much and goodbye. Have a good day to our Bhutanese friends and a very good morning sleep to our American friends. Thank you very much. Kadin Sela.
Kadinchela, Tashe Dele.
Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Thank you all.
Safe. Take
Thank
care.
you.
So much.
See you more in this kind of gatherings in the future. Thanks a lot. True, sir. True, sir.
Thank you.
We look
forward.
Yes. To Leslie, Shannon, Chris, Hunter, who were there, then to all our other friends, thanks for that, the energy and the drive, patience to stay back late into the night. Must be morning there, isn't it now? Thanks a lot, but we hope to see you, more often in this kind of, academic deliberations. I think for me personally, I found it quite insightful, and especially listening to the students, young students. I found it quite touching also to see, such young, children talking about PBE, and it's always reassuring to see that we have such young kids who will give us a better future. Not just champagne PBE, but who are going to make our future much more promising. Thanks to the Olathang team who thought of bringing in the children. Maybe this is an excellent example for other schools to also make an attempt to bring in children into this kind of academic and scholarly discourses. They benefit a lot, but we learn a lot. To me personally, I found it quite inspiring, but at the same time felt so touched to see young kids participating amongst us. And thanks a lot. Thanks to Tendruk sir for that important document. I have not seen this one for. This is the first time actually. In fact, when I was looking through the posters, I questioned. I actually asked Cheong from Olathang to give us some elaborate more on that one, and that was the time where he said that it is REC who added these 4 new principles of PBE, culture, economy, ecology, and governance, which is a very good way of localizing and contextualizing such principles, isn't it? I was quite delighted and impressed of the new additions of these 4 new principles into PBE. But we still keep that ownership, the 6 earlier principles to TSS.
I'll send you a hard copy of the book.
Lasla, thank you, I would appreciate that one. I've already downloaded one. Cheong had sent me one, and I'm going to share it with our faculty here and the students. But having a hard copy would add value to it.
I will send.
So it was a Saturday weekend well spent for us. Huh?
Yes, I hope after a long morning in front of your computers, you all can go outside and enjoy your places as well.
Yeah, true. Make a direct connection to the place outside.
Yes, I hope so. Well, I
That's
think we may sign out and end the meeting. Unless Dr.
Yes.
Reeta, do you have anything else, or Sir Lundup, anything else for us?
I think we should.
No, I'm just so happy today.
Yeah.
Thanks a
I
lot
think
once again.
Yeah, we can talk later. So for now, you all could take a rest.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Good night.
Thanks for this beautiful experience.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie, Sandon, Chris, and all our
Good night and
panelists.
good day to
Good-
others.
Good night to Leslie and Chris and everybody. Good night, and then to everybody others in Bhutan. Have a good day and a safe day. Today we are completing a containment mode, and we are sending our children home starting today. So that is an information. So we had been in containment mode for almost a month, more than a month. So we are completing our containment mode, and then we are sending in a phase-wise our children, and ensuring that students are traveling safely and reaching home to meet their parents whom they have been eagerly waiting for. So this is an information to everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir, again for your participation. And then we look forward to meeting you in future also. Thank you so much, again, sir. But we are still under lockdown, so you will be breaking your containment mode. But in Samtse, we are still under lockdown, so we cannot go out to enjoy the place as suggested by Leslie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's too bad.
Okay.
All right. I think we will end the meeting now. Take care.
Yes,
all.
yes, yeah. Take
Stay
care,
safe.
and then bye-bye.